So guys, welcome back to another live stream. This is Dev Diary episode 10, I think we're on now. At least that's what I reckon. And it's the 23rd of March, 2018. So we're gonna go through some of the changes that were made since the last stream. I've kind of cleaned up some of the level streaming. Nothing much to talk about there. I pretty much covered that in previous videos. I've done some minor changes to the ocean shader, just with opacities and things like that to try and get it to work a bit better. So far so good. We'll have to see what else we can do with that. I just want to bring up this here to talk a little about some of the stuff I was trying. So first of all, something that I was trying but ultimately I won't be using. Well, it's hard to say if I won't be using, but I probably won't. It's not looking right now like I'll be using it. It's the fast travel system by Kalint, and basically does exactly what it says in the tin. From what I can tell, it was inspired by the Witcher series, and the fast travel system featured in The Witcher 3. It's very good. I've kind of used the example levels and stuff and had a bit of a play around with it, and it's quite nice, but I found it very hard to get it to work in my project. Followed the instructions several times, even tried to add it to a blank project and didn't have much luck. One thing that I am using is the fire starter kit, so let's have a look at the fire starter kit. I did purchase quite a few things recently due to the sale on the Unreal Engine, and again this is one of those purchases that was like, okay, well I could develop the particle systems and graphics myself, but that's going to take too long, so I just went ahead and got a basic fire starter kit. It comes with some different fires, different examples. Some of them I won't be using. I'm kind of more interested in basic fire stuff, smoke, and of course I think there's even a candle in the set, and we'll have a look at that a bit later on. So go back into the library again, some of the other things that I was looking at but ultimately have a kind of a limited use for me. Some of the materials, the water materials by Tharlev FX. This was dropped in price, and I said I'd give it a go. Again, what attracted me to this was the actual waves and the shoreline. Again, I might have another go at getting it to work in my project, but just on a first glance, I don't know how useful it may be. If I was to use the rivers, maybe. I am using one of the lake materials at the moment, but we'll have to just wait and see, because at the moment it doesn't seem like it's going to be terribly useful. So that's kind of some of the stuff that's been added to the library. Some of the stuff that's either placeholder or just in there for now. So we're going to jump into oh well, I had it open already. I better let this open and then I'll close it, otherwise I'm going to get some kind of conflicts having two instances of the one project open. Yeah, but as I said, some of these some of the content that I got from the store, some of it's useful, some of it not all that useful, and some of it's placeholder. I would ultimately like to replace a lot of it with my own content, or with content that I commission from artists and coders and other developers in the future. So as you can see, this is our first fast travel stone. These were kind of my signposts that I was going to use with the fast travel system, but I think ultimately I'll come up with my own fast travel system. Just it's more catered to what I'm actually doing here, and more kind of customized to the kind of way I'm streaming levels and things like that. Right now we only have the persistent level loaded, so the houses that are in this part of the level aren't in. and the ultimate idea at the end of the day is to have these assets, these fast travel stones, in the persistent level, and to kind of take care of fast traveling in the persistent level, with the caveat that I'm going to have to come up with a system whereby we either go to a loading screen or we fade from one fast travel location to another. That being said, I'll have to come up with a way basically so that we don't actually spawn the player in until all the assets in that map are loaded for that part of the world. So with that said, I'm just going to jump in and play from here, and it should load in the assets. So we've got the house. You may notice our fast travel stone over there, but we've also got smoke coming from our chimneys. So what I want to do is I'll just play from here. So if I play from here, and you can see that we've got the smoke coming up there. So we've got some graphical user interface stuff here, so we press E to open the door, and we've got our fire inside, which is quite nice, and I attached a light to that and kind of grouped them together. I may create a blueprint out of that fireplace. If you notice, our door closed there automatically after 10 seconds behind us. I am going to have a look in other games and kind of games I like and see how they're managing their doors, at what time between opening does the door automatically close. So it should automatically close there. Another thing I want to talk about, we actually have some controls in now. I'm just going to get my Xbox 360 controller here, and we have now, there will be some graphical feedback. You'll see it in the top left hand corner that I've got it to print when I do different things. So we have crouch on, so I'm holding down the X button there. Crouch off, I pop up, so we have a crouch function there. I may smooth that so that you don't just pop down, but you kind of slowly go down, but that'll be something that I can kind of take care of in the blueprints, and I'll show you a bit of that towards the end. Another thing you'll notice is when I hold the A button, which seems to be used in a lot of games for sprinting, so I kind of fired up Steam, had a look at a few games that I like, and seen which was the most common button layouts, and A seemed to be it. But you can see that my walk speed is 400 and my sprint speed here is 800, and it kind of dials down once I take off the once I take my finger off the button. So we're sprinting there and we're dialing it back, and basically those that text you see in the top left hand corner is just kind of feedback for me at this early stage, especially when I'm testing different controls, like if I want to kind of duck. So I have a 400 walk speed and I duck and I get a 200 walk speed, and I sprint I get an 800 walk speed. So if I hold crouch, you can see that my walk speed is limited, even though the counter told me, but it's just to try out different things. Now at the moment the fast travel system is kind of where one of the things I'm working on. It's kind of good to have maybe 2 or 3 things you're working on, so that if you get kind of annoyed or just kind of jaded with not making progress on one, you can kind of switch over to the other. Often that'll spark an idea then that you can kind of come back and do other things. And it's also good that you're kind of testing out different things and overlapping things. So I'm in the fire there, ducking in, crouch off. I should pop out once I come out from under the collision geometry, and as you can see again, the door has automatically closed. So I'm going to go out here, doesn't matter where I am for this next bit. Ooh, so I pop the other side. So I've got to kind of maybe I need to mess with the collision mesh for that door, but I kind of pop weird there, or increase the time. Indeed, might be a better solution. Doors are always a pain when it comes to auto closing, and I need to make sure that on the input that's when the count starts, and that the count is reset after after each use of the door in the script. So moving on, we'll go through all the blueprints for these, but moving on, we have our menu system. And this is, when you press start, this is the fast travel map that comes up. Again, I don't have this quite ready to work with the control pad, but it works very well with the mouse and keyboard. And as you can see, there's different kind of, as you roll over the different waypoints, we get a different graphic that comes up. But I'll come out of that. One thing I want to do is I just have to go into my properties here in my streaming, and we're going to go for speakers, because one thing you were missing from that previous example was there is actually audio. So if I play, and we're playing in a separate window here, so I'm going to go back in. So we do actually have audio, and as again, some of these audio sound effects and tracks are just placeholder for now, all royalty free, Creative Commons accreditation stuff, just as placeholder, even though that kind of Celtic tune in the background is something that I like. But again, I probably will get something. But we'll come out of that, press M again, and you can see that it doesn't just abruptly end. We get a nice transition, it fades out. So we're going to go into some of our stuff, and what I want to do now is show you guys some of the user interface stuff that I'll be working on. Again, it's kind of nice, as I said before, that if you can't get the logic of the fast travel system working and it's kind of rounding you off, you can jump in and you can kind of focus on UI or other kind of stuff, make progress on that front and come back, you know, give it a day. So what we'll do is we'll go into our fast travel map. So you can see here it's basic enough set out. We have a button graphic for each of our fast travel points, and we have a hovered and a pressed kind of state for each of those, and a graphic for each of them. So you can see here I've got some clouds in the background, and I need to do a little bit of work on those, but basically the idea being that these kind of obscure parts of the world, that other islands that we'll be visiting later on in the game, but for the demo only the main island is kind of what we're interested in. So with that said, you can see I have some graphics there. I'm going to drag in some more user interface graphics, and you can see I've got a ton of these little clouds that I'm going to place over to kind of create a kind of a rolling cloud effect in this kind of aged kind of paper stuff going on. So, oh, maybe I'm doing that wrong. So I need to add graphics. So order, so image. Let's see, we might be able to do this. Yeah, that's cool. So another thing with these is, because their Z order needs to be high, we'll set them all to 4. So you can do it to multiple ones. So Z order multiple values 4, and it will bring them all up. Appearance. Okay. Size 2 content. So F2, we're going to call this cloud _0. So I'm just going to copy that. so that I can just quickly name all these guys without having to do too much typing here. Okay, I pressed the help button instead of F2, I pressed F1. So, 3. Just try and get these done as quick as possible. Okay, so that's annoying. 5, 6. And 7. Oop. Control reverse 7. Okay, so we have these guys in, and I'm just going to kind of take a quick break, guys. I'll be right back. Okay guys, sorry about that. So we're back again, and I just was going through some of the stuff. So, we want to kind of experiment with some of these guys. So, I need to kind of I need to go back to the browser, because I just want to kind of hover over one, and it's 512 by 512. So we have a size to content, and size X, so we're going to change that to 512. Change that to 512. So that gives us the actual size of the graphic. So the idea here being that we're going to do some animation effects here and have these clouds kind of fading in and fading out in their opacity channel, and kind of floating from, let's say, well, in Ireland it's prevailing onshore wind, so we'll have them at 0 opacity, fading in and kind of coming across here. What we'll do is we'll try and have it so that these guys obscure as much of this area as possible. So for this video, we'll briefly go through and we'll see how we can animate one of these. So what I'm going to do is add an animation, and we're going to call it cloud. Oh, caps. Cloud. This is 00 anim. So what I want to do here is add. So we have cloud 00, and what I want is track, transform, and track visibility. So I assume see what other track options there are. Okay, so we don't need this one. We can get rid of that. Visibility is just kind of a zero-sum game. We want color and opacity. So, okay, we have a base for those. So, and I can click remove those. That's cool. So, they're kind of pre-set up for us. Drag that out. These animations probably need to be a bit longer. So, sometimes not integral. That's fine. So, okay. For the purposes of just this little demo, even though it's dev diary, I am going to go in here, translation, and what I want to do is move it on its x-axis. Okay, so I'm just going to turn off all those. The only one we can see is our little cloud here. I'm going to set its size again because it kind of went a bit wonky. And I'm going to take off that constraint size. And just get that back. Okay, so that's better. And 512. 512. Let's get you. So we want this one to kind of travel across here, fade in and fade out. So okay, so get it to move to about there. That's pretty cool. So we have it traveling across. So now we wanted to, with that, we wanted to fade in over 1 second. So we're going to go to 0, 0. I'm going to grab that and move it back because that's not needed. We want to start on 0, 0. So we need to grab that little guy and move him back to 0, 0. So we're moving from the word go. And that looks linear. Doesn't look like it's easing. Maybe a bit of easing there, but we can sort out the tangents and all that kind of stuff later on. And now, opacity. This is the one we're interested in. So I'm going to move back here. So currently opacity is at 1. So we want 1 at 1 second. And we want 0 here. And there we go. So we get a nice fade in. And we could even move that to 1.5 seconds. So at the end, We want opacity at 1 at 3.5 seconds. Key that in, move across here, and now we want a 0. And again, we can kind of tweak this so that we have these clouds forming and going. So, compile, save, and we're going to test that out. So, we'll hit play. Go back to our map. Okay, so we appeared to have 2 of those guys, so I want to check that again. So here's our guy, and it is now saying no animation. Okay. Okay, so I need to get rid of that. So that's gone. And our animation for this guy behavior, visibility, pivot. So we'll just have to get that loop, and let me just see. Compile, save, play. And we'll give it a go. Okay, so it faded in but didn't move. And now it's not fading in at all. Yeah, okay, so we'll come back and try and fix some of those animations later, but what I'm going to do for now is just kind of roughly position all these little clouds that we brought in earlier on. So I'll make them visible first, and what we want to do is go back, take this off, and get our size correct. So 512, 512, and just roughly by eye. I can always come around and fix some of these guys up again later on. So take off the content size. I want to just kind of go around, get them roughly where in areas that need a fill. Okay, so I did that kind of in reverse, but that's okay. So indeed, some of these I could just have, rather than motion, I could just have them fading in, fading out, and using different ones. I'll probably duplicate a lot of the ones that you're seeing here and along the side menu. But there's enough of them to make it kind of work. So okay, we'll position up these last 3, and we'll call an end to the stream for today. We'll kind of go over some of the stuff that I want to do in the coming weeks, and some things that I'm planning on working on, some of the deadlines that are coming up, and things like that. So 512, 512. One thing I really appreciate about Unreal 4 is that we can actually do GUI in here. In Unreal 3, it wasn't so easy to do UI. We were expected to kind of leverage Autodesk scale form and kind of Flash, which in other areas outside kind of graphical user interface for games has kind of been replaced. I don't have a problem with Flash. I just never liked the idea of using Flash in games. I always thought engines should come with their own UI. So that's cool. This guy, Cloud Zero, is actually the same as that dude. So we can always move him. Oh. Okay, so we move that guy there. So at the moment it looks like kind of a mess because some of them are fading in and some aren't. Have I got a lock on these? No. But anyways, we'll compile, save, and we'll test it out. It's okay, the position of them needs a bit of work, but they're in the menu. And you can kind of see that over the next week between now and episode 11, I'll be working on kind of UI and kind of getting the map to work, along with adding the actual fast travel functionality. So to kind of sum up, we've got a control system going on. We can crouch, we can jump, we can sprint. We've got a basic controller layout that we're happy with. We've got some assets in for our fast travel, and we've got our map. Still a lot of work to be done with them to get them feature complete and get them actually functioning, but we're well on the way. Another thing that I'd like to show with you guys is if we stat FPS, frames per second, you can see my average frames per second there is up around 100. I had been at 120, but I increased the amount of light calculations that are being done in the real-time lighting. But to get us way up, what I've done is, if you notice, if we look towards the wooded area there, we're culling a lot more of the grass. That had been an issue for a while and was kind of cutting my frames per second down to kind of a place where I wasn't really happy this earlier on in the project, having a frame rate, you know, closer to 60, considering that the world hasn't been fully populated yet. So reducing the draw distances on some of the foliage types really has helped. Changing some of the lighting has put a bit more expense on processing, and it's also kind of pushed my color values for my grass kind of out of sync with the rest of it. They're all easy fixes, but that's just worth mentioning, that as I go along, I'm trying to optimize as best I can, even this early on in the project's stage. So, with that said, that's been episode 10 of Dev Diary on the project so far. And hopefully when you come back, when I'm back in the next episode, I'll have maybe a bit more kind of going on inside these buildings, some more kind of graphics, graphical user interface stuff going on, some more controller kind of refinement, player controller refinement, and a fast travel system implemented. Cool guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat to you all again.